That was the thing. I was trying to be sensible. Good evening. The Georgetown School Committee meeting of Thursday, September 22nd, 2011 is now called to order. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
The first item on the agenda is a consent agenda. It's approval of minutes from the regular session meeting of 9/8/11 and Budget and Finance Subcommittee meeting minutes of 9/8/11, as well as acceptance of warrants 13V11, 12P12, and 14P12. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda unless there are any questions or any items to be removed.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Our student representative, Matt Hartford, what do you have to tell us this week?
Well, right now the big thing going on is freshman elections. Actually, this year's freshman class has had probably the most amount of students step up to actually run for things, so that's very positive. And then the main thing I've been hearing about is people wondering about when the new mobile units will be coming in.
Yeah.
iPads and notebooks. So, but besides that, running smoothly. So.
Yeah, actually, they must be writing a story for the school newspaper about this, because a young man, emailed me and asked me a series of about 8 questions, and one of them was, when will the iPads and the netbooks be available? Because if you remember, those are 2 mobile units that we put in this year. So I have to ask Mr. Lucia about that, because I wasn't able to reach him today on that. So
They're not working?
well, apparently they must not be available.
Yeah,
They may be being used, but the
Yeah.
kids aren't aware of exactly how that's working. So
Yeah, I haven't used
I don't
it
see
yet.
Mr. Lucia here quite yet. So when he
We'll
comes,
follow
we
up with
can
him and
ask.
find out what's
Okay.
going
Yes.
on with that. But that brings up a good point, just so that everyone's aware, we did purchase a mobile iPad lab and a mobile netbook lab.
Right.
And we use the stimulus funds for that. And that's for 2 reasons. One, because we had to give up some of our regular computer lab space, and this allows the computer teachers to move around and still teach their computer lessons, and for teachers to sign them out and use them within their curriculum. But it was not an iPad in every hand.
No.
It is an iPad lab, which is, I believe, 30 iPads, as well as 10 additional iPads that are being used within the library. And will be used within the library. Thank you very much. Next item is public comment. Is anyone here from the public that would like to speak on behalf of anything not on the agenda? On anything else on the agenda? No? Okay, next up is talking about the Pembroke grade configuration. Ellie, Michelle, do you guys want to come up? And
Chuck, you can come
and
too.
Chuck as well?
Sure.
Just in case we have questions, or if you want to interject as to what's going on. Just so that everyone's clear, last time we brought it up and we started talking about it, and Ellie and Chuck kind of guided us as to what they were looking for in terms of the school committee recommendation on grade configuration. And the premise of that was the grade configuration recommendation would be based on the needs of the students and their educational requirements, as opposed to cost, because we don't have cost right now. So what I had done is I had asked Donna Tanner and Margaret Mayer to give us a paragraph or 2 explaining their thoughts on grade configuration. They're the experts. They have far more experience than at least I have in seeing this. So they gave us some great information. I know people have asked questions of different people. So if anyone has any comments that they want to share, otherwise we will move on to vote on grade configuration.
And I would just add, I know Carl had asked me some information in an email as a follow-up to the questions I think probably you raised more than anybody else last time, like the whole issue of cost. So, he and I thought together about that, and obviously I think the costs are actually minimal. I think you're correct. When you look at even the administration, with a school of 700 students, you would have more than one administrator in the school, whether it wouldn't be a full principal necessarily, but it would definitely be administrative costs. The other place you might look is things like the specialists. Right now the children get art, music, and gym at the Pearly School. Well, those students are moving to the Pembroke School, so you're still going to need to increase the number of specialists in order to cover everybody there as well. So Maintenance, perhaps, although you still, even though you'd still be keeping Pearlie, we'd still be keeping Pearlie open, even though it wouldn't be used for the same purpose necessarily, it still would require, heating and lighting and those kind of utilities as well. So I think that your point last time was, we don't want to sell this as it's something that it's going to be a huge savings necessarily, and I think you're correct on that, looking from the numbers, looking at the numbers.
And that's just an overview, it's not.
Maybe some savings, maybe some savings, but it's not like there's going to be a huge savings. That wouldn't be the factor that would make the decision.
But he did come out and tell us that he thought it would be between probably $4 to $5 million to put on, to add kindergarten to this. Bear in mind, Georgetown would only bear half of that cost. So that $5 million to Georgetown, it's 2 to 2.5. So that also is important. When you get down to it, you're making a decision for 50 years of education, because MSBA is not going to allow Georgetown to build another school, another elementary school. Correct. So, there's a lot of weight to this question that we're putting before you.
The other point that was made, I think, by Carl, I lose track of who we talked to about this, but he mentioned that, and I think maybe he mentioned even at the meeting last time, that the MSBA, they feel obligated to support buildings that are kindergarten through 12. And if Pearlie were used to basically have the preschool and the kindergarten were to be moved, they might consider that actually an asset, because it's one less building that they feel that would need to be, in their responsibility at some point if a renovation was needed. Something to think about.
Dave, did you have anything?
My only comment, I think, is what struck me is the transitions that the kids make, I think, is important to me. So I think it makes sense to, consider having K through 6 as a model, rather than having kids, that the transition from 6 through into, or currently from 5 into the middle school is a big transition, but going from, K and then transferring over to a school, so I would actually be in favor of supporting a K through 6 for that reason.
Comments?
I commented on it.
I just wanted to make sure everyone gets their comments, and Barbie?
No, I'm good.
Rob? All set. All right, then I think at this point we should vote,
Take a motion.
on what our grade configuration is. So the chair will entertain a motion to propose that the reconfigured, or what are we calling, the new building project?
Great
The
configuration
grade
for
configuration for the new building project, whether it be a reno ad, an addition, or a new construction, be from grades K through 6.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yes. Can I just want to make it clear to the public who may not have been watching the last meeting? I know we made it clear in the last meeting, but this is not like a binding vote. We're just giving a recommendation of what we feel educationally would be in the best interest of the students in Georgetown. Right, but it may end up to be something else based on what the building committee
Good point,
decides. Is
Dave.
that correct?
It's what's in the best educational interest of the students,
Right.
without a detailed cost analysis and what
Exactly.
we can actually fund.
Right, and the building committee, we are still going to go through that vetting process and still look at the other grade configurations and.
All the
but-
options.
Exactly.
Great. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all
Thank you.
very much.
Thank
I
you
really
very
appreciate
much.
it. Thanks for all your time.
A pleasure.
And sorry, Carl.
Hopefully Carl will be making an extra something.
Turn around.
Step out and call him.
Yeah. Please let him know that I did ask if it'd be available.
I'll blame it on me.
All right, next up is the school reports.
Right.
And do we want to go into,
Do you want to do the MCAS now, or do you want to move to the
Why
other
don't-
things first? It's up to you.
why don't we just go in order of
Okay,
what we have?
so we'll do the accountability status.
Accountability.
Okay, so I think Julie is going to come on up, because Julie put together some slides that she's going to go through with us. I'll help her with it. So just to begin, I did write to you in your orange notes a little bit. I know some of you have been with MCAS for quite a long time on the committee and hearing presentations about it, but others of you are new to it. So I felt it was important to provide a little bit of extra information on the front end of this. We have a lot of information available to us through the data warehouse that the state makes available. The MCAS results are actually, the student results are in the district now. In fact, the schools have them, and they're going to be sending them out either tomorrow or Monday. So parents should be expecting them early next week. If you recall, that'll be the detailed summary for the parents with the student results. We also have a district report card that we're required to give, which is the accountability status. That isn't ready yet. We contacted the Department of Education, and they said that that might be ready sometime next week. So as soon as that's ready, there's a letter that goes with that, and that will go home either in the backpacks or via a mailing. The MCAS results will be mailed, but the accountability information, may go home in the backpacks with elementary students. Not sure what we decided at the middle high school yet, and it'll be available on the website for anybody who wants to look at it in detail. So this particular round of MCAS, and I put a lot of data in here, and certainly it's nothing that you have to go through every single thing on, but the adequate yearly progress this year for Pembroke and Pearlie. Well, Pearlie, believe it or not, let's start with that. Pearlie gets an AYP report, even though they don't administer MCAS. What they do at the state level is they look at the results of the third grade, and they assume because these students have been in the system, they take those third grade results and they formulate and basically an AYP report. In the case of Pearlie this year, we really are trying to dig into it a little deeper because we really can't quite understand it. Pearlie did not make AYP this year for the first year in all the years we've been tracking it. The school improvement for the accountability for Pembroke this year went into a category called improvement. And I explained this a little bit to you. If you recall, we're going to show you some slides here. But if you recall, Pembroke last year did not meet AYP. When a school or a district does not meet AYP for more than 1 year, you get something called improvement status. In the improvement status, you have certain requirements. The first requirement is you have to revise your school improvement plan in accordance with the state's standards for what they call the conditions of effectiveness, which are very consistent with our school improvement plans and very consistent with our strategic plan. So that's a requirement. We will be doing that. Pembroke is in year 2 improvement for subgroups. Our special education subgroup has consistently performed below what the state requires. So we have improvement status year 2 at Pembroke, and we have improvement status year 1 at the middle high school. Our results are strongest at the high school, but because it's a middle high school, the state right now considers it one school. So what that means is that because the middle school receives Title I money, that Pembroke does not, when a school receives Title I money, there's an additional requirement you have to do, and that's called you have to allow the parents the opportunity for school choice. In districts like Georgetown, where there isn't a second choice, I'm required as a superintendent to solicit information from other local districts as to whether or not they have two things. They have slots available or they have an accountability status. So I've actually done that to schools within a 20-mile radius, and at this point no one has slots. No one has any space available. I'm still waiting to hear from Danvers, and I think there was Masconomet, I think I'm still waiting to hear from. Everyone else either doesn't have spots or they have status. So we wouldn't be able to offer that option. And that is only at the middle school because we use Title I funds there to support our reading support program there. At Pembroke, because we don't receive Title I funds, even though we have reading support there, we don't pay for it out of Title I funds. That isn't required by the state that there's a choice option made available to parents. In both cases, we have to revise the school improvement plan. Is that clear to people? Okay.
Just one thing that's not clear to me is, so Pearly, we do not test at Pearly.
Correct.
So they extrapolate data from grade 3, and from that, they
Right.
can say that you get a rating of improvement, even though,
Well, right now, they don't have a rating of improvement. They just didn't meet, they didn't
Okay,
make
so they-
AYP.
but they can say you don't make AYP even though they don't have any real testing data.
Well, they would disagree that they don't have real testing data, but
it-
we would agree that it seems kind of silly to us, but that's the way it works under this situation. So when we look, we're going to show you some slides in a minute, which we'll talk about. You've got them here, but for the
Yeah.
public, they should have an opportunity to see them as well. We had some very positive results in some places in the district. We saw some results in areas that we paid a lot of attention to. We had a couple of grades where we had a very large percentage of the students in advanced categories. There were a number of places, particularly at the high school, a couple of situations where we had 100% of the students that were in proficient and advanced. Our biggest challenges right now are the number of students in the subgroups, as you can see from the AYP reports, that are not making adequate yearly progress. That's a problem. But I think when you look at these results and you see, that what the expected change is, and see how close some of our students in some groups came to making the adequate yearly progress, I think that's also important. We're not pleased, we're puzzled, actually, by our 3rd and 4th grade results, particularly our 3rd grade results, just because they seem, when you look at the graphs I put in your packet that show the results from 2006 to 2011, they're fairly flat, right? And we're doing a number of initiatives, and we would be expecting those results to be showing steady improvement. And we're just not sure exactly. We do believe what the things we're putting in place, like the Foundations program and the new Everyday Math program, are going to begin to show results. But we haven't been, see, even full day kindergarten, which I believe is going to show results over time. Next year would be the first year that those students would have all had full day kindergarten. So, we'll see as the next year's data comes forward. But as you look, you can see grade by grade, there are some pockets of improvement, certainly. Things like we notice, which you don't have here, we have detailed item analysis reports, so we can actually go in, look at the questions, look at the numbers of students who got the right and the wrong answer. We can actually look at our curriculum to see whether or not students have been not only exposed, but have learned the standards. That helps us make adjustments. This level presentation we're going to do tonight is really the district level. You're going to have other presentations that the schools are going to make where they're going to be able to tell you how they've really delved into looking more deeply at the individual item analysis reports they have, the comparisons like you're looking at right now that look at how have 4th graders done historically over time. And then the data that I find most compelling and noteworthy is always the cohort data, because that's the data that basically says, this particular child's been in the district and taken the test every year, for 5 years, and how has that individual group of students shown progress? And, that's something, that we would argue that the work we're doing with the standards and the curriculum has that kind of an effect, that it's a accumulation of a body of knowledge. And so when students are tested, they've learned the standards to the extent that their performance would show that. It's accumulation. All right? So, Dan, why don't we do this, Julie? Why don't you start going through some slides here? We'll go through quickly, but obviously if you have questions, stop, Julie, and this won't be the last conversation we have about MCAS.
Yeah, just so that everyone's clear, this is just the preliminary,
That's
and then
right.
we go
Deeply.
school by school, and,
It's November usually.
yeah,
Yeah, October, November, yeah. Okay. All right, do you want to pull that down?
so that no one thinks that, we're just gonna breeze by
Oh, no. Right.
and take them. This is just our quick overview.
Great, thank you. And for people who love data, we will make sure it's all on the website so everybody can read it.
We wanted to show you initially the different types of information and analysis that we can do, and Carol definitely spoke about that. Today we'll talk about the AYP results, adequate yearly progress, the 2011 individual grade level and subject data, some grade level performance over time, comparisons to the state and other districts, and some subgroup results that we've been able to start to really dig into. Additionally, Data Warehouse has a ton of information, subtest results by subject, cohort analysis, student growth model, item analysis by subject. And so I think when we get to the second part of this list, you'll have a better understanding of where we are grade by grade. And the principals and the department heads will have a really clear understanding of where we are, even framework component by framework component. So that's as deep as we can go into that. So we won't do that today, so we'll be here all night. So today we'll talk about adequately yearly progress results, just a little crash course in understanding AYP. For some people, you only have to do this once a year, and that's taking a look at the composite performance index measuring students' progress. So by 2014, we're supposed to have 100% expectation of reaching the goal of 100% by 2014, I should say. So CPI measures on a 100-point index what students have received in each grade level. And so the CPI is a total point number system assigned to each student, added and divided by the total number of students assessed. It's a mathematical equation that we don't do at the district here, it's done at the state level. Our performance ratings usually come out with our district AYP report card. We don't have that yet because the district report cards haven't been released by the state yet. But normally they would term ELA and math as very high, moderate, or very low, or whatever the combination may be of what their CPI point usage is. So essentially, there are 4 factors that determine AYP: the number of students tested, the state target points, the school improvement target points, and attendance at the elementary level or graduation determinations at the high school level. Okay, we can go over that again some other time. But what I wanted to show you today was the district AYP accountability chart. And this is what you'll find if you go on the DOE website. And what it does is it breaks down for us the grade spans 3 to 5, 6 to 8, and 9 to 12. And then it will tell you in the aggregate whether we've reached AYP, and if we've reached AYP in our subgroups. And if not, on the far right-hand corner, you'll see where we have not met AYP under the category on the right, subgroups not making AYP. And so as we're looking back over the past 3 years, you'll be able to kind of track that with your eyes. I don't have a pointer, unfortunately, but you'll be able to get an assessment there at grades 3 to 5 in 2010 and 2011. We're looking at some indicators that are showing us that students aren't making AYP in our special ed population, and we're going to take a look again at the aggregate in our ELA subgroups to figure that out.
Can you explain to me the difference between aggregate and all subgroups?
Yep, aggregate is all students as a combined whole, and subgroups there are 7 determining subgroups for the Department of Ed. Georgetown only has 1 group of students that will constitute a number of students that make up a subgroup, and the only subgroup that we have in Georgetown is special education. In other districts, they may have Hispanic, Latino populations, they may have free and reduced lunch populations, but in Georgetown, the only subgroups are white and special education.
We actually have other subgroups, but they don't count because there's not 40 of them.
Right, we don't have
40
enough
is a
in the district.
threshold.
Right, right, okay. So in the very bottom there, between ELA and math, you'll see an adequate yearly progress history dating back to 2004. And it will show you the yeses as we've come to be over the course of the years, and the accountability status there.
As a district.
For the district, yep, for the district. Any questions on that? Okay. So the state performance targets that you see here in yellow are the yellow stars. We're trying to differentiate the middle and high school from Pembroke. So the yellow stars identify Pembroke's percentage of proficiency. On the red line, you'll see math. And so we are right now scoring at 86.0 in mathematics. In ELA, we are scoring at 87.7 on that scale, and you'll see that the yellow star and the blue line there for ELA. Sometimes you need a visual to kind of chunk all this information together. So the expected proficiency for 2014 at the very top in the right-hand corner is 100%. And so that just gives you kind of a bird's eye view of where we are right now with our CPI. Okay. So what I decided to do, well, Carol and I decided that we would break this down school by school just to give you another piece of information, another lens to look at this, and this is the AYP for Pembroke School grades 3 to 5. Okay, and as we're kind of working here through this, I could give you another crash course, but I'll try to be brief on this one, and this is how do they determine what the number system is. Okay, so as you're looking across from the left-hand side in the aggregate under participation, you'll see that we met the target for participation for ELA, actually at 100%, which is great. All the students took the MCAS on the day that it was given, or the series of time periods that it was given in. In the performance indicator category B, you will see that the question is, did the student group meet or exceed state performance targets? The target was 95.1, and unfortunately, in the aggregate, we did not meet that target. Okay, so we were actually scoring at an 87.7, so that's why they give you that number range there. But you can also make AYP, though, if you've met it in this improvement category. So B and C are interchangeable every year. So if you make it in B and you don't make it in C, you have a good ratio. Unfortunately, we didn't. If you answer the question and looking at the numbers, you can see that. Did the student group meet or exceed its own improvement target? No, it did not. The change was 1.2 from 2010. And so as you combine all those scores going over to D, did the student attendance group meet its attendance requirements? And the answer is yes. So unfortunately, when you combine all those things together, you'll see that we did not make AYP for 2011 in the aggregate for ELA. So what we'll do now is take a deeper look at that at the school level and really determine where are we and what are we doing for ELA, in ELA, and how are we organizing our assessments to address those things.
Just a question. We only have one subgroup. Why do we have two subgroups showing up?
What they'll
Under B.
Under B, special ed and low income, we don't have enough students to make
Not 40 of
a cohort, but they will report on some data, whatever data they have for the student body, but it won't actually impact your AYP.
So, well, okay.
Yeah.
So the only subgroup that we have that we report results on
Is special ed.
is special ed. So that 76.7 won't have an impact on our actual result on that
Right.
87.7.
Right.
That's a function of the 87.6 and 52.7.
But what we'll do is when we look at this data as a school, we'll try to determine how are our students spanning across. Sometimes you'll have students that span across different subgroups. And so you have to try to decide how we're going to double dose our interventions and really support those students if they do span. And I've seen this happen, a number of different categories or different subgroups.
And white is considered a subgroup.
It is, because it's our largest subgroup, if you want to think about it like that, because it's the majority of your
Is
student
that
population.
requirement of 40 across the board,
Yes.
regardless of size of school?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, regardless of size of districts for schools.
You know what doesn't make any sense to me though? Your aggregate is 87.7.
Mm-hmm.
That's higher than the two subgroups.
Say that again? I'm sorry.
Your aggregate,
Aggregate.
87.7
Yeah.
is higher than your than any of your subgroups.
Right, because that's the combination of the whole.
Yep.
That's the average of all of those, all the different criteria pieces are averaged in that. Your aggregate is the whole.
Right, but how
So-
can your whole?
How the whole be larger than the smaller parts? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm
If you're
just
gonna
not
do
understanding your
an
question.
average of something, how can the?
Well, I think
The average
Maybe
be
the
higher than the
criteria is
parts.
different than the.
Okay, well, when they determine performance criteria, they determine that on the proficiency ratings.
Right.
On the
Okay.
highs,
Oh, okay.
they
on the
take every single
CPI.
All right.
student and they
Yeah.
count them in those
Yeah,
groups.
and then they
as a
average
whole.
those.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, I wasn't clear
yeah, no, okay,
probably when I was
It's
explaining
not a
that.
direct mathematical equation, which is what you're
which I
looking
was
for.
looking at. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I know. It would be nice if it was, wouldn't it? Okay, so this is a similar situation, or a similar layout, I should say, not situation, in math. And as you look across, you'll see in the aggregate, yes, we made it for yes, we made it for AYP for the school, but no, we didn't make it in our special ed population. So again, we'll drill down into that and try to determine what's happening here with our special ed population and how can we better support them throughout our, whatever we're doing with our curriculum considerations for this year. Does that make sense? Okay. So as we're moving forward here for the Georgetown Middle High School, our state performance targets, the percentage of proficiency for ELA is 94.5, and math is 85.1, and you'll see those on that grid there. It's always nice to have a visual to try to determine where we are in the great scope of things. I'm sorry, that was a little quick. If anyone has any questions on that, certainly let me know. Okay, and again, so here we are with our Georgetown Middle High School AYP data. And as you're looking across to the left-hand side, you'll see, yes, we made our target expectations for participation. We did not make it in performance, but we did make it in improvement. And so we've met our graduation rate in addition to that. So yes, we have reached our AYP targets for 2011. But we have, again, another look that we need to take at special education because we have not made AYP in that subgroup. Does that make sense?
Is special education just the students that are receiving special education in Georgetown?
Services, yes.
It has nothing to do with any of our out-of-district placements?
No.
Okay.
Those are private schools and they don't take MCAS.
Okay.
That's what I thought, but I didn't know.
Okay, so again, we have our mathematics. Yes, we are making AYP in 2011 for the district. For the school system, sorry, 6 to 10, it's different for me. I'm used to a breakdown in a different category. But no, we did not make that in AYP. So again, we'll take a look at, I'm sorry, in special ed. So again, we'll take a look at that and try to determine what is it that we need to better support that student population. Okay. So our MCAS results, what we try to do in addition to this is this district to state comparison. So now we know all the AYP data. How do we rank as a district against the state? Okay, so what I did was I went through and I gathered the ELA information from the state, and you'll see that in the middle column, and compared that against the district. And again, you'll see that the district scores really well in comparison to the state. It's got a really high advancement rate across and through the years. And so we want to take a look at what are we doing to make those positive strides, and we want to make sure that we're kind of spreading that out throughout the district. And we also want to take a look at where are some places that we know we need to make better advancement, and how can we make that happen. And so Carol and I have been putting together some plans together for doing that kind of work.
92% of proficient and advanced at grade 10. I mean, as you look at that trajectory, you see it's harder to get people to 100% the more years you do it. You know, the gap is much narrower, and so it really does require some real fine tuning. But I think, again, you know, when you look at the 8th and 10th grade scores, 92%, you know, almost 90%. If you remember back in 2006, when you look at those results, our kids weren't close to that. So the work we've been doing is making a difference, and the kids are making forward progress.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there other comparison charts available where, for example, not just the state, but certain...
Oh, we have those. We have some of those.
And they'll do a much more detailed presentation for each school. There'll be a lot more comparison.
Well, you know, speaking as
With cohort
a
groups,
previous,
you can see what
yeah,
each grade has been doing.
And you really want to look at each content area. And so the people that have that content knowledge can really go in and kind of dig in and say, all right, now I know that this test has been dogging these kids for the last 4 years in nonfiction. So what have we done to really address that in our curriculum? And what have we done to really address that in our student practice? And how are we teaching differently? And so we'll be able to get much more detailed information. I almost hate to do this overview presentation because it's not how people really look at the data. It is as a district, and it's important for us to know that, but to really make curricular advancement, it's really the item analysis work that will be done, and you'll get more information on that, certainly. So we don't want to leave you with nothing exciting. This is exciting. It's just you get a better sense of where we really are when you hear it from the principals and the department heads. So mathematics, district to state comparison. Very, very similar. I want to show also that we do have some really significant advancement over the state. It does fluctuate though, so what we want to try to do is really assess where is the fluctuation happening and what can we do to really support that growth that we see as the students grow and grow in their learning. Okay, and our science is off the charts, I have to say that. Science is tough. It's a tough thing, and across the state it's always been a low scorer. However, when you take a look at our science, you'll see that there is significant growth that's made in the district. And when you take a look at the different tests that the students take at the high school, you'll see that they've really done quite well. And so that'll be fun to listen to when we get to that discussion. Okay, so our comparisons with local districts, as you asked for. When we look at 2011 English Language Arts comparison data, Carol actually worked on this through grades 5, 8, and 10. She was able to correlate some of these numbers. So, Carol, I don't know if you want to speak to that.
I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, what we did is that information's all available in the data warehouse, and what we did is we combined the percentage of advanced and proficient, because at the end of the day, that's what we're measured against, is proficient or above.
Right.
And you can see that in grade 5, English Language Arts, you can see where Georgetown falls. Grade 8, middle of the pack, but when you take a look at it, we're Andover and Masconomet are two that perform pretty well across the board, here most of the time. Actually, we usually are chasing Hamilton, Wenham, and Manchester, Essex, so we're continuing to look at those two districts as well. But I think, when you start looking at where we fare, I mean, we're competitive. These are not large discrepancies, from the top districts. So we're going to continue to work on this. This is just another comparison, that we can take a look at. And then one of the things that Julie and I were talking about was, I'm personally curious when I look at districts that are consistently scoring high, why don't we go find out what they're doing? Why don't we go and, take a look and see what curriculum they're using, how much time they're spending on certain subjects. Maybe they spend more time than we do. There could be a lot of factors. And obviously, at the end of the day, it's the students taking the test. But there are some districts that are consistently, right at the top, and it'd be good to take a little closer look at what is they're doing. And I'm sure some of the districts that aren't performing as well as Georgetown could take a look and would be happy to take a look at Georgetown, because there's an awful lot of things we're doing well as well. And then this is where we fared in grades 5, 8, and 10. And the reason I didn't do all the grade levels, but we certainly could make that data available, is that 5 is the end of the elementary, 8 is the end of the middle, and 10 is the exit test. So I figured that would be a good place to just take some snapshots. And here, grade 5, we're in the top 3. Grade 8, we're in the top 5. And grade 10, looks like we're in the top 6.
Wouldn't you put Hamilton Wenham higher than us?
What?
Grade 5? Wouldn't you put Hamilton Wenham?
Well, they had 81. They are higher.
They had 78.
Would they have 78?
Why are they
There's
twice?
two Hamilton Wenhams.
Oh, are they in there twice? Yeah.
Okay.
I could be. I was cutting and pasting, so it could be.
But the scores are different.
But still, they're higher than 73.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to double
Yeah,
check.
just-
Because, no, you know what? Hamilton Wenham should be where it is. It should be Andover that's at the top. Right?
No, look below us.
Andover is.
Georgetown.
Oh, Andover
Rockport.
is. Okay.
Hamilton Wenham's
Yep,
in two
I'll
places.
I'll look at that and see
Yeah.
what the change needs to be. I'll clarify that for you. Somebody else must be missing.
All right.
But I don't think we were unhappy when we looked at those comparisons as to where we were.
Carol definitely spoke about something that we have been thinking about, and that's what do we do with all this data? I mean, tons of it. So what do we do, and how do we really assess where we are in the great scope of things? So going and looking at other districts is something that we've been speaking about. I should have put that on here, and I don't know why I didn't. But as a district, in addition to that, what we want to do is really show you an in-depth item analysis and identify some of the power standards that we see that are consistently being tested and assessed. And also take a look at some of the assessments that we have in this district and how are they supporting the progress monitoring that we want to see. across each grade level. We'll also create MCAS action plans. We'll analyze our curricular expectations. We'll modify wherever we feel curriculum needs to be modified. Some of the other things that we've been talking about with principals is conducting long composition practice assessments with teachers and looking at open response questions and really trying to assess our own students through the student work that they do. So that would require a pretty in-depth writing analysis, and so we're looking at trying to organize that. And adjust the curriculum components to offer tiered instruction wherever we feel that's necessary, especially in some of the dips that we saw in some of the information that we got out of Data Warehouse for our overview. And, you know, just like anybody would do, you would do this in your own home. If you had something that you needed to assess, you'd look at it from all angles. What can we do to identify our subgroup needs? What are we doing for interventions, and how can we support that better? How are we assessing or using our enrichment and enhancement blocks? And what does our school improvement plan say, and how can we address these needs in our next year's plan? And so we have additional slides for you, but they're all the slides that you already have in front of you. We figured we would put them in the presentation so that when we uploaded it, we would be able to offer that for people to take a look at. But I'm going to end
But
here.
unless you have questions,
They can go right on the website. can't
we'll put everything
Yes,
right up on the
yeah, we
website.
will. Yeah.
But if the committee had questions, that was the purpose of giving you the opportunity to look at it in advance. We certainly, you know, would be happy to answer any of your questions if anything comes up after you have a chance to think more about it, anytime. And then we'll continue, as we have information, we'll continue to bring it forward. We take the MCAS results very seriously in the district. It isn't, however, our only way that we measure success, and that's one of the things we've been talking about in terms of getting input into our strategic plan from the community as to what would the community consider our real indicators of success and excellence. But it is a state indicator, and we do have an obligation to make sure that our students have the opportunity to learn the standards, to know and be able to do and be proficient with them. And then our teachers need the opportunity to have what they need to be able to teach and make sure that the students can learn the standards as they need to.
As far as other indicators, that article, just wanted to see if you got that article on Finland.
The article on Finland?
A+, yeah.
Yes, I did.
And I'm just curious,
Yeah.
when you get something like that, because it's new to me, when you get something like that, is it something that is worth looking further into?
Well, anytime. I mean, there's a lot of good education stuff out there now. I mean, there's a lot of good books, and we're constantly at the administrative team, you know, pushing each other's thinking, you know, bringing things in and talking about those kind of, you know, whatever's, you know, important in education. As Julie said, one of the nice things about MCAS is there's a lot of information available. Some districts choose to use very little of it, others choose to use a lot of it. So, yeah, we always need to look at, you know, best practices and what's working in places. And we'll continue to do that. But, yeah, I read the article, and I think it's interesting to...
It's just so opposite the US of A.
Well, you know, I've learned that from talking to other folks in town that come from have been educated in other countries, and it is very different in terms of what gets emphasized. And, you know, we always want to try to make the system better, but we are obligated sometimes to work within structures that we have and try to do the best we can. So, yes, thank you, Rob, for sending the article along. I did read it.
One thing, Carol, that I'm interested in, and I don't know if anyone... this is just something I want to take a look at.
Yeah.
When I look at the high school AP data and the SAT data,
Yeah.
I noticed the decline in 11 going back.
Yep.
Over
Peter's
5
going to
years.
talk to you about that.
Right, but just one thing that I'd love to find out. We're starting to see the declines, and I'm wondering how much of it is a result of our cost cutting that we've made. Because I think 2002 was the year that we started really cutting into the budget and really reducing things. So what this shows me is those kids in 2002 were probably 11 minus 9 would get you back to 2002, and if this is grade 10, so they're right around K to 1.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if these students are a victim of that, and we're going to start to see more of these declines, which is what we've kind of been wondering if that's going to happen anyway. So that's something I think we should just put on our list to start looking into to see if we're starting to see that impact.
The other thing I just wanted to show you is I got this off the DOE website today. It was from the commissioners. It said, I just want to give you a little perspective here. It said, according to the 2011 AYP determinations, 1,400 schools, or 82%, and 352 districts, 91%, did not make AYP in 2011. Up from 1,141 schools, which was 67%, and 316 districts in 2010. I think you're going to see more and more districts falling into this improvement status as the improvement targets start getting harder to reach. But I just thought that was very interesting that there, you know, we're not alone in this. And when you take a look at, you know, how close we are, you know, I have to say that we just have to keep pushing forward and keep digging down. But you know, I'm pleased that our teachers and our administrators are so focused and committed to making sure that we continue to be recognized as an excellent school district and be competitive not only in the region but in the state. Mr. Lucia.
I am next, aren't I?
Yes, you are next.
Okay.
You actually
Are
were,
next.
you know, we kind of skipped over you and then we're bringing you back. So you're right. You're right where you should be.
Okay. What happened here?
I don't know. Do we need to get? Oh, there you go.
Okay, back again. Okay, I would like to share with you some of our testing results that are specific to the high school that took place last spring. First of all, our advanced placement scores. This is what they look like. These are the courses in advanced placement that we offer: U.S. History, Government and Politics, English Lit Comp, Calculus AB, Biology, and Spanish Language. And to analyze this data, and what Ann already kind of hinted to, yes, our scores have gone down a little bit from last year, but they remain excellent. And I have to say that 2010 were exceptional results. So I don't think anybody that took those tests in 2011 have anything to be ashamed of, because they still are excellent. So they did go down a little bit in relationship to the 2010 results. However, they do not represent a significant statistical decline in relation to the 2010 AP overall results. And again, that was an exceptional class. Those scores were exceptional. The subject areas that reflect a performance decline of 0.5 points or higher in 2011 include U.S. History, Calculus, Spanish, while biology results reflect improvement. Overall statistical comparisons over a 5-year period from 2006 to 2011, scores results continue to reflect a higher 5-year score difference. These are our SAT scores. If you look at them, they remain very strong. Again, they are a little bit lower than the class before that. They still are well above the Massachusetts average and the national average. The most significant declines in areas after looking at this data closely are in critical reading and math. Again, they remain significantly higher in all three components of the test in the state and national average. The smaller the size of the class, the more vulnerable and overall score results are to fluctuate, and that should be kept in mind, because a low score can result in a significant difference in overall scores. So the class of 2011 was roughly 15% smaller than the class of 2010. National SAT scores in general have declined in 2011, and that's a significant statistic too. I included a quote from the Seattle Times on September 16th that states that scores on the critical reading portion of the SAT college entrance exam have fallen 3 points to their lowest level on record, and combined reading and math scores are the lowest since 1995. Probably indicates something to do with the test. So, you know, when we look at these things, and something Ann said about, you know, what is the possible result of the budgetary difficulty we've had over the last couple of years, that's very difficult to pinpoint because you're not comparing apples to apples. The same kids aren't taking the test every year, and the test is not the same every year. Same thing with MCAS. That MCAS test changes all the time. So we need to keep that in mind and be very careful when we try to make those kinds of comparisons. PSATs, these are taken for the most part, some sophomores but juniors. That's why we're looking at the class of 2011 and the 2012 comparison, not 10 and 11. The higher percentage of the members of the class of 2012 took the PSATs. Class is much bigger. The class of 2012 is 30, almost 30, 35 kids larger, but we're looking at the percent. So there is a 3% increase in the amount of kids that were taking this test. And the scores in critical reading for the class of 2012 were a little bit higher, and math remains the same. I did add a few other what I thought to be interesting areas that we look at. First of all, the National Honor Society membership. The number of members inducted into the National Honor Society from the class of 2012 is large, and it will get much larger because that's juniors only. And it is very common for someone that didn't make it in the junior year to make it in their senior year. So we expect that percentage of the class to be much greater than that, which is pretty significant.
And you increased the criteria, didn't you?
We did,
Yeah.
yes, yep. These are the John and Abigail Adams recipients. This is the MCAS scores are very closely tied into this in GPA, and the class of 2007 had 32% of the class made it. This class of 2011 was 30%, and we don't have that data out for the class of 2012 yet, so that's why we're comparing these 2 years. And I thought you would be interested in some postgraduate plans. In terms of four-year colleges, the class of 2011 was 1% higher. Two-year colleges, 1% higher. Total post-secondary obviously translates into 2% higher. People that are going into the job market directly is 2% lower, and our people that are going into the military is about 1% of our graduating class, which is pretty much stable. That's about what happens at Georgetown High School. So I would like to publicly thank Mr. Steve Umbro, the guidance director, for really, he's the one that crunches most of these numbers and gives them to me, and he also provides commentary for me to reflect about before he has a way of looking at things too. So, there's any questions?
Thank you, Peter. Thank you.
Questions, anyone?
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for going through it.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Moving right along, are there any questions on the superintendent's information for the committee? Okay, financial report, line item transfers.
You go for it. No, you go for it. Jim.
Since Julie did it, I'm going to ask her. That's why
Come
you're
on
here.
up, Julie.
I'm not-
I don't know if the members of the public know Julie. Maybe we should
Anyone-
introduce her.
Julie Lavecchia is our, what's your title now, business manager? Assistant business manager, and has been the one that has been the glue of the business office for the last at least many years. Many years that I've been, at least the many years that I've been on this committee.
Yes.
And so she's been the one that's provided us the consistency and base of knowledge that we all have. And she's going to help us answer any questions that we might have.
The transfers that I have before you are regular transfers based on changes with shipping charges, things like that, in accordance to school committee policy on transfers. There's a couple of allocations of salary overages and shortages based on new hires. And I think that's pretty much it. There's nothing really substantial in there that
Unless you have any specific questions about any of them. You wouldn't answer for you, I'm sure.
there is a transfer there for the Family Consumer Program, which we reinstated this year, but the money was not placed in those accounts, so that money was transferred into those accounts to get that program up and running.
She has to have money to buy food.
Yeah, she needed food money.
The chair will entertain a motion to approve transfers 1 through 33 as presented in the September 22nd, 2011 budget transfer form.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Nope, motion carries.
Thank you, Julie.
Julie, thank you very much.
You can stay up here if you want, because it's going to be
Oh, CIP.
Carol
Yeah.
and Laura. Okay, next are CIP project requests.
You can come on up.
You know, one thing that I was wondering before we go through this list, which is everything that we need, could we consider putting on the servers?
Putting,
For the high school?
adding the server?
Adding the servers?
We'll know more on Tuesday.
Okay.
Even though we don't have all the information, has this gone, this will be going to CIP
Well, actually,
soon?
There to reserve the place.
Placeholder, yeah.
Placeholder.
Yeah.
as we call it.
Okay, if we could add, even if we could just put an estimate on there, we can at least get an idea from CIP as to whether it can be approved for funding. We need to do it whether it's funded through them or not, but,
Peter, we won't know anything until next Tuesday, right? Or more, I should say.
The problem that we're having with coming up with a plan is the wireless part of it, because we need to get the blueprint of the school down to an 8.5 by 11 scale. So we have the CAD class working on that,
Yeah.
and that's taking some time, and it probably might take them another 2 weeks to get that done.
That's a good
So,
idea.
the question I have about putting things on the CIP list is, how long did they take to decide?
well, what I'm looking at is more from a placeholder perspective. If it can be, we're gonna have to go ahead and do whatever we need to do to keep the school running the way that it needs to run. But if they approve it, they could be a funding source for us going forward.
And they do have some free cash right now. I'm not sure how it's going to all be used, but
Right.
there is some free cash.
But it wouldn't preclude us from any change in our timing. It would just be a change in funding.
Great.
Okay,
I know the CIP is going to start meeting at the end of the month.
okay.
So if there are things that we have ready to go on, I think we could get it on for like the fall town meeting.
Okay,
So
all right, great.
So I think the other question was, Mike, are these in priority order?
not really. I thought the school committee might want to set the priority on things. I just made a list of what I felt as far as building repairs and that type of thing. These sheets here, though, that look like this,
Yep.
were like some of what we felt were the top priorities and
Okay.
things we asked for placeholders with the town administrator, Mike Farrell.
Okay. So what was yeah, go
I have
ahead.
a question. The exterior doors, are these at the
Middle high school, yeah.
And that's not a priority for...
Well, they're rusty.
Those like really like...
Yeah, we've grinded them all down and we're in the process of welding them and filling them in with like fiberglass fill so that they don't get water into the building. But they are gonna have to be replaced eventually.
But you don't think that's something that it should be...
They're gonna be weather tight and we've sealed them all up for the winter.
I guess I'm thinking in particular the one that's like...
Yeah, furthest one over, closest
towards
to
the
the
band
garage.
room. Yeah, towards by the garage,
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one we've put a lot of work into grinding down all the
But
metal.
it's okay. It's
Yeah, we haven't melded.
acceptable at this point?
It will be once we weld the new metal on and paint it up.
Is that this on here, Mike? Is
Yeah,
that-
that's on here.
That's-
I mean,
For next
you guys can set the priority to
Oh, I
whatever
see
you
your
want.
question.
I was just
Where-
wondering
where
why
the
it wasn't
got it,
a
okay.
sooner priority. That
I
was all.
see, okay.
Because I know it's been in bad shape for the last couple
Yeah.
of years.
It has, I agree.
So that would be something to do next year. Is
Yeah,
that based on
I just want to know
list?
what's
Okay.
current.
And that
status
might,
was.
that one door might not be $10,000, so that's also a thought with CIP, it has to be over $10,000. So if we want to come up with a plan to replace all the doors, that might be a thing to do, but one door might be something we want to budget for next year to repair ourselves, or to replace ourselves.
Okay.
Which I'm going to provide a list of things I think that we should put on the budget for upkeep as far as the building goes.
So, do you all feel like you know why these things are important? Like, for example, do you know, like, the intercom system at Pearlie and Pembroke? I mean, do you understand that that's kind of a safety issue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Early in the middle high school.
The repair of the air conditioning units, isn't that the auditorium and the offices?
Yeah.
Which don't have heat.
Which don't have, right. They don't, right now, they don't. And they're not on Peter, was that on the list of the town's items?
The offices, the auditorium is not.
The auditorium is not.
It's just AC only.
Okay.
The office, we have three areas where we don't have air conditioning. The main office, the auditorium has partial air conditioning, and some areas in the library, especially our instrument suspension room. But the unit in the main office is also a heating unit, and that's been out since the end of February last year.
Okay, and I guess the other message is that we're not asking to air condition the building, we're asking to like replace the air conditioning
Existing,
units
yeah.
that are there that don't work.
And the heater.
As well as provide heat to the
Yeah.
people that work in the front office,
Right.
which OSHA might
The problem or
have an issue with.
the office in the library is they're supposed to be covered under that energy audit, so the money's already put forth for them. So
Okay.
that's why we haven't repaired them, because we're the town's supposed to be doing it under the energy audit,
Okay,
but they haven't, from what I understand, they haven't signed the contract yet, so we're waiting, I mean, we have been waiting for a couple months now.
right, and we need to, we're gonna have to move on that.
So it might be something
Right.
we have to take care of ourselves. I
Okay.
mean, it
Okay.
Can I ask a question about the intercom? It says the middle high school in Pearlie. Is Pembroke being considered, or?
well, the thought was if we're gonna get a new building why put the
Really,
intercom
they've
in
been putting
now?
everything off in that building. They've deferred everything for the past several years. Over there, unfortunately.
I mean, obviously, every year the CIP list comes up, so obviously we're going to know in the spring whether or not something's going to happen at Pembroke. So that would be a time to say, okay, if we need to, that needs to go on the list.
Right.
We've been currently having problems with the high school intercom system, and right now probably the clocks are off. And if we've noticed that when you make an announcement on the intercom, sometimes if you're in the hallway, you don't hear it. So it could be an issue at some point.
Okay.
How much did when we talk about the district servers, Ann, do you remember what we know what that figure is, or we're not sure?
I was gonna say anywhere between 50, I thought 60 was the number.
60 was what, Peter, you had that, the district servers
2000, March.
cost?
Oh, do I have the cost?
Do you remember what you proposed? Last meeting was 60,000?
We're talking more about 80.
Barbie had it, right?
that's what I
Okay.
thought.
80K.
Why don't we, I would like to see that put in
For this year.
for this year. If we use 80 with an explanation of,
the wireless things that are coming with
we started with 35 on the school tour.
Yeah, we did.
well, we want to do it right.
Right, no, I agree.
And do it
Did.
once.
We
I
did.
do remember 35, yeah.
Okay, well, at least for the purposes of CIP, if we can put 80 in and then
Yeah.
pending, looking at the bids and the plans and what it really is gonna be. That might
Julie,
be.
did you mention clocks at the middle high school? Did you-
The clocks are tied into the intercom
com-
system.
Oh, because I remember going
For
through
the bell
parent night, and it's
programs.
like, I don't remember
I
any
know,
clocks that
they're
were
all-
working.
they're
It's
all
like,
wrong.
They don't, they're not.
is that like a big fix? I mean,
It's
It's
tied
replaced.
into
It's
the
replaced.
intercom.
Tied into the
It's
intercom.
a huge fix.
like, they don't work. They just, they
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
Like, the second hand goes around and, like, it doesn't change time.
Parents' night, I must say that day, the intercom system went out, and we got it fixed right around 5 o'clock. So it does take time for the clocks to sync up, and they weren't.
I'm just curious, that's all. I go into those classrooms and none of the clocks are working, so it's like, can't you just get like a battery operated $5 clock and put it on the wall, like I do in my house?
Yeah, some places do that, classrooms.
Yeah, some teachers have done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So at this point, are we voting on this list? Is that?
Are you
Was that
happy
the
with the
intention?
priorities?
Yeah, they are prioritized.
Okay. Well, I guess the first thing that,
I mean, do you agree with,
does anyone have questions about what's on here?
No, I just have questions about the priority.
And then what would the
So if you add
priorities?
this, one of these for the server, because these are the forms you use to submit to Mike Farrell,
Right,
then I think you guys should prioritize like 1 through 5 on how you want to do those items.
okay.
Because,
oh, in the 2012?
Oh, okay, because you had prioritized on these forms what.
well, not really.
We
I
had-
I mean, I'd put them all, I think, as one,
Yeah.
just because,
Okay.
to me they are, but.
Do we need to prioritize them in rank order, or can
Well, I
we
think
just
what
say
you
they're
think-
all ones?
Yeah, maybe you could say, and I would assume some of
Well,
the.
no, I'm just I'm asking like if,
Better
yeah,
to be clear.
okay. Does anyone have any,
Well, you could
thoughts?
put them all ones, and then the CIP is gonna prioritize them anyways, maybe, or somebody will have to go to a CIP meeting to represent the school.
Okay,
Well, actually, we have to check on our rep. Remember Mr. McEnany, or remember?
Yeah, I don't remember
Yeah.
his name.
Yeah, I see.
I mean,
We'll have to double check, because you have to appoint that person.
okay. All right, throw it out for, discussion or proposals for what our first, second, third, and fourth for FY12, and then we can do 13,
I just think based on what I've heard
14
from
and
everybody
15
else,
later.
the server should be first.
Right, I think the servers.
Agreed. Okay, servers number 1, then we have 2, 3, and the intercom system's going already, so we don't need to prioritize that, correct?
What?
Is that underway, or it says
No, they've-
pending?
What does pending mean?
We're waiting for the
waiting
price.
Are you waiting for a quote? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have a gentleman
Right.
coming in on Tuesday to give us an actual quote.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that's important.
Yeah.
That's a safety issue.
Yeah.
So would you make the intercom system 2 and then the AC units or HVAC units number 3? Or would you put the intercom and the AC units both as 2?
I personally would put them both at 2.
Okay. Any issues with that?
You have to have heat, right? And you have
Right.
to have an intercom system. so-
Exactly. And then we would do the truck and the tractor
Great.
both at 3, or would you do? Yep.
Two and a half?
Well, but maybe like.
What's the realistic?
In just 30 seconds, what's the
Well,
truck
I
and the
mean-
truck? What's the,
And we need a lawnmower desperately. I mean, the one we have is old. It's actually down right now. It has a flat tire, so we just ordered a tire. It's gonna take a couple days. We used to have 2 lawnmowers, then the spare is completely dead, so now we're down to 1. And like I said, when that breaks, it's 3 days before we can cut any
Is that
grass.
the tractor, Mike?
Yeah,
That's
so,
tractor.
and the idea of getting a tractor is the mower we have is really undersized for what we use it for. So if we got a tractor, we could cut, 91 inches of grass instead of 50 inches of grass. Also use it for snow removal. Currently, we rent a Bobcat every winter. Last year, it was about $5,000 to rent it. I think it was 48 something.
And you noted that you're looking at savings of $20,000.
Yeah,
had
because,
something
well,
like this.
when we got a price to aerate the fields, that was $14,000. And so, we borrowed and used other people's tractors and equipment to do it. So, we saved the money this year. But, overall, if we want to take care of the fields and take care of the grounds, that would be a saving instead of renting or
So we just have
leasing.
the labor cost
Yeah, exactly.
associated with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the truck, Mike?
The truck is, we have an older truck from the light department. It's two-wheel drive, and, you can move stuff from school to school, but basically, as far as landscaping and snow removal, it has no use to us. In the past, we've had a four-wheel drive truck with a plow, and I'm not sure, what happened to it or whatever, but when it died, it wasn't replaced, so.
Yeah, it had a major issue in
Yeah.
the engine.
Yeah.
We had a volunteer from one of the local gas stations who agreed to take a look at it, and he said,
Yeah.
there's just no replacing
No,
this.
replace it, yeah.
I think it had been cobbed together for as long as it
It could, yeah.
could be.
I understand the money the way it is, but I just think
Yeah,
it
no,
should be on the radar
I
anyways.
appreciate you taking the time to put it together and laying
Yeah.
it out for us.
Yeah.
So in terms of truck and tractor, any proposals for 3 and 4?
Tractor first.
Okay, so we'll do a tractor at 3.
Tractor first.
Yeah, tractor first. Okay. Can we leave the other 3 years unprioritized at
Yeah,
this point?
that's
Okay.
fine.
So the chair will entertain a motion to recommend the capital improvements for 2012, 13, 14, and 15 as outlined by Mike Anderson, with a priority for FY12 of first, the middle high school servers, approximately $80,000. Repairing and replacing the HVAC units for the auditorium and the front offices as number 2, as well as number 2, replace the intercom system at Pearlie and the Georgetown Middle High School. Number 3 would be to purchase a tractor. Number 4 would be to purchase a truck.
Second.
Any further discussion? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope, motion carries. All right, moving.
Thank you both.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you going through everything.
Thank you.
Next are subcommittee reports, budget and finance. We haven't had any changes since last time. We're waiting to get information on the servers. Governance.
We met this morning, we started reviewing the manual, we're going through each section. We're meeting again on October 12th, and we'd also like to ask all the members of the school committee to please email, there are 3 priorities for the school committee this year, 3 goals of the school committee. For this year, we always do goals, and then we measure ourselves at the end of the year with our self-evaluation about how we did with our goals. So if you can email 3 priorities to me, we'll look at them in our next meeting on the 12th, so if you can get them in the next 2 weeks, that would be great. And we'll try to prioritize those and put them in some sort of order.
Negotiating, Dave.
Nothing's changed. I think we haven't a meeting set yet.
We're trying to
We're
get
trying to
one.
get a meeting with the custodian, the union. So
The
that's
only
what
thing I'd mention about that is, and this is something the committee wanted to think about, is, we did agree at the before town meeting, we did agree that there would be a study done by a shared group, a combined group from the town and the schools to look at the issue of a shared town school maintenance department. Remember, and nothing's happened with that. And I feel like that part of what's holding up the negotiations with the custodians is the sense that we made a commitment that we were going to do that, and it would be disingenuous to try to negotiate a 3-year contract with the custodians if there was any possibility that privatization might be entertained. So I'm not sure if maybe it makes sense for Ann, on behalf of the committee, to send something along to the town asking you know, for what the process is going to be and to try to get that ball rolling.
I did mention it last week to David Surface, and I'll follow up with an email
Okay.
to he and Mike, just so that we can lay out a plan of how we're going to move forward within the next couple months, because next thing, you know, it'll be April, and they're going to want to put it on, you know, people are going to want to know where we are on it. So I'll send them a note, and we'll shoot for getting that moving and some kind of resolution.
I'm sure there's information in Terry's office. There was a lot of work done to prepare
Right.
That presentation to consider the override, even though we felt like we had questions and it wasn't as fleshed out as we were all comfortable with. We also would like to continue to talk about, I don't think you need a $700,000 override to do it. So that's, I think a small group of people coming together could vet that pretty quickly and come up with something that may be a plan worth pursuing.
Can we provide the selectmen with sort of a drop-dead date as to when we need to hear on negotiations, or then we just need to keep moving forward on negotiations, just so that they have a sense of schedule?
Yeah, I'll let them know of where, and I did mention that it's going to become an issue pretty quickly, and I'll let them know that our timing is post-haste.
Yes, because
we
the
really don't have
custodians,
the luxury of time at this
yeah,
point.
the custodians are going to file for mediation. And that does take a while to schedule. But hopefully something could be decided or determined before that process goes forward as well.
So what, a month? 30 days, perhaps?
To do what,
Get a
Rob?
response back from selectmen with some
Oh,
sense of their
yeah,
schedule?
I think within a month, I think you should expect I would hope that they could come up with just what's the process going to be. You know, is Mike Farrell going to lead it and pull people together? You know, I guess that's what it is. It's just what's the process going to be?
I think we need to know, within 30 days, we should know the process, and then I'd say within 60 to 90, we need to have an idea of the direction, at least a direction that we're going, and whether we need to really hold out for privatization language, or if it's just really not looking like it's going to work that way.
That would be very helpful.
And does that work, it's the first time on negotiations for me, does that work in the schedule that you see coming up with what they're filing for now? And
Yeah, I mean, if
Okay.
within 2 to 3 months,
Okay.
you know, perhaps it will take them that time to schedule a mediation. And if there's continuing conversation going on, obviously, that's a good sign. We're right down at this point to the very last language discussions that we have, and everything else is good to go, except we're not going to agree on this privatization language. That's going to be a stumbling block.
One other item that came out of governance is we need to appoint a liaison to the special education PAC and a PTA liaison. And Barbie has graciously offered to accept both of these liaison positions unless someone else is interested, and we can have a discussion on that. Oh,
No
is that you?
I've done them. I've done both those.
Do we need to vote to appoint her? We don't need.
Yeah, you should, somebody should make a
We can make a
motion.
motion to make her a liaison.
Okay.
Yeah.
The chair will entertain a motion to make Barbie Linares the liaison to special education PAC as well as a PTA for the school year 2012.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Thank you, Barbie.
You're welcome. Very nice of you.
Next up are your FY13 budget priorities.
I mailed them to you.
Did you?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That very long email.
Oh, I'm sure that I didn't see it yet.
Yes, you did. It was like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, it was. I'm sorry. You did. I do have her budget priorities. Do you guys want to email them to me? Do you want to list them out? What's the easiest thing to do?
I think you can email them to you.
Email. Okay, can you guys just email them to me? I can tell you my 3 are maintaining class sizes and reducing, if at all possible, maintenance planning. Mike's done a great job of moving us along, and if we could keep planning what our maintenance projects are going to be and just identifying them so that we're not continually reacting, we can be a little proactive.
I'm assuming you want to find some funding for them.
Well, that's going to be an issue, but at least we have a plan and we kind of have an idea. Like David brought up the doors, and those are on our radar screen. And now we know about the HVAC that we have to get fixed.
Okay. What was your third?
And my third is it's ambiguous, so I'm not even gonna get into it right now. I'll come up with some more wording for it.
Miscellaneous?
It's ELA related, but I haven't been able to word it correctly yet.
Through the chair, at what point does the town give the school department or any other department guidelines about the FY13 budget?
It's an excellent question.
Because we really need to know that, Ed, because I'm going to start the budget process probably in a couple of weeks when I'm done with the end-of-year report.
Usually we don't really get that information. I'm gonna say until like January, February.
Right, but if they want our numbers earlier, they're gonna have to give some direction.
Right, so I will ask for, I will pointedly, I'll send a note to the FinCom and ask for specific guidelines of what type of budget we're gonna actually be preparing.
Yeah.
Whether it's level funded, level service.
There's
I
a
have
huge
a
difference,
feeling-
as you know.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, I have a feeling at the next department head meeting that the town administrator runs, he'll be talking about that.
Okay.
Because he's the finance director as well as the town administrator,
Okay.
so he'll probably be giving some guidelines in terms of whether he wants level funding or level services.
Yeah. Or an increase.
Or an increase,
Yeah.
yeah. They've never done it where there's been an increase. They usually
really?
ask for level funding, and then you can make a special request above level funding, but
And I hope everyone realizes level funding really is a cut.
that we, of course, know that.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
we know it too well.
Well, and I think it is important to have that conversation, because we do have the override that we got last year, and
Yes,
hopefully that will continue to be in the school department's base, and, so, yeah.
Because we're also losing our Ed Jobs grant this year.
Our
Sure.
$160,000.
So we have
ARPA funds are gone.
We have a
Yeah.
cut, and Ed Jobs is going away, so. While we are eternally grateful for our override last year.
Absolutely.
Sure.
It's just something that everyone needs to realize. Okay, next up is the approval of homeschool families. We have a few more homeschool families that have submitted their plans for the 2011-12 school year. So the chair will entertain a motion to approve the updated list of homeschool families for the 11-12 school year as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, motion carries. Do we need executive session?
I don't believe so.
Anything else anyone needs to bring up? Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, great.
Carol was ready to ask you
Well,
something.
no,
She's like,
the only reason, I just realized, Laura, this was just a